Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow stock nerds, it's time to do the weekly wrap up where we sit back, we chill out, we actually grab a beer, and we go through the weekly and today, because it kind of corresponds at the same time, the monthly charts. Now, the monthly charts, I think, is something I'm going to do more of where wherever a day falls upon, I'm going to drop the normal show and do a monthly chart wrap up. And this is something I learned from my buddy JC at All Star Charts, where regardless of your time frame, when the month closes, it's good to take that step back, that overall look. I think it's kind of good mentally to look at that. So that is what I did today when I'm talking about the markets. So if you're new here, I do this every day where I give you my thoughts as a CMT, a chartered market technician, on the stock markets, futures, Forex, equities, crypto, whatever it is. We talk about the markets. We try to figure out what's going to happen going into whatever following period. We grab a list of stocks, things that I think are interested. If you're interested as well, you can add them to your watch list. As always, if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, go to StatsEdgeTrading.com. You can use the QR code here as well. Sign up for the email list. All I do is I send you out when something cool happens, where basically what will occur is you'll get an email every day that will have the video that you're watching now, all of the screenshots for the charts that I put out, and the ability to copy and paste those that watch list into Trade Ideas. If you don't have a copy of Trade Ideas, use StatsEdge for 15% off at checkout. That helps out the channel as well. So we have a lot of charts to go through. So let's get that, now that we got that out of the way, we are going to pop in here. We are going to start, as always, with Bitcoin, but we are going to do it on the monthly time frame to get started here. So interesting month last month. So when I do the monthly charts, you're just going to have to ignore today's candle because, of course, today's the first, so there's going to be a little extra candle. But I'm just focusing on kind of the candle before that. Again, that's why I think on the end of the month from now on, that's when I'll do it. But anyway, we came back up, and I've been talking about this for a long time, where this area right here was where we broke down from with the FTX news. We came back, we touched it, and now we had a solid red candle off of that news. So again, the beauty of this is we're zooming out. So regardless of what's happening intra-week or intra-day, we've had this nice zoom out process when it comes to the overall market, and a bearish red candle off of this support is not ideal. We go into the week, we see kind of the same thing. So this weekly candle, again, I just want to reiterate the importance of this kind of long-term perspective, because everyone got so excited when we had this massive bounce off of support on Wednesday or Thursday, and then we're right back down. So you can see this candle is kind of right back down near lows here. So for me, now this is just a giant topping tail. We had a push down. We've now had a rest week. And then if you ignore just that 2 days of action, we also had another week where the body of the candle, the open and the close of the week, is right at lows. So if you looked at this on like a line chart like this that cuts out the high and the low, you can see downward sloping right at resistance. Doesn't look good to me. And if this let goes, we could see 15,000 again. There's a lot of places that could stop along the way, but to me, short a little bit of Bitcoin. Currently looking to add to that short, not looking to get long until something changes. Before I get some laser eye people mad at me, I am looking to buy Bitcoin. I would like to own Bitcoin. It's just not the time technically to do it, right? So I'm not hating on your coins. I just can't really do anything about that right now. So now we're going to look at Euro, US dollar, 7 weeks down in a row here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks right down in a row. You got to imagine, even though it kind of broke this clear support, you've got to imagine that there's a bounce incoming on this. Let's anchor a VWAP from here. We have a long way to go from that anchored VWAP. We have a little bit of a trend line here. We have some support over here, but to me, I don't like doing revision to the mean much, but if I start to see some strength on a shorter term time frame, we are down against 7 weeks on a row. So for a short term trade, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to look for something like that. Now, on the monthly chart, let's move this over. So on the monthly chart here, we basically have this big push down, big bounce up, and you can see these were the lows that we broke down from, the kind of 2020 lows. When we broke that, that's when the kind of the real crazy sell-off occurred. Now that we're back there on the monthly chart, we're failing. So we failed off that level. So on the weekly chart, this is again why multiple time frames is important. Because on the weekly chart, we may look for a bounce, but the patient trader may say, well, on the monthly chart, we still look bearish, so I'm going to wait for a weekly bounce or a daily bounce and then short into that for a longer term trade, if that is the way you trade. But that's kind of what I'm seeing there on that monthly chart. Now we go to Aussie yen here. So on the monthly chart, it just kind of looks like a little bit of a bull flag, right? Big push up and then sideways consolidation here for months and months and months. And then on the weekly chart, I haven't been shy about how much I really like this chart. We have these prior highs from back here, which were prior lows from back here. Got to stop double clicking on this chart. And then lows from back here. We're pulling back into that zone, and then so far we bounced off. Now, this week that bounce failed, and it led us to a big topping tail. If we go into the daily chart, basically I'll be looking for if the backside of this trend line kind of holds and we start to push higher again. That is interesting to me on a daily chart. So still looking to buy whenever I can on Aussie yen. We have gold. We have gold here on a monthly chart with this anchored VWAP pinch. So an anchored VWAP is an average price of a market participant at a certain point. The average price of the market participant at the lows here, we're under that, and we held as support, and we pushed higher on this monthly chart, or sorry, the weekly chart. It's even more prominent, I guess, on the monthly chart, but let's finish the weekly chart first. And then we've got this anchored VWAP from the top that's pinching together, right? So we're getting really, really tight in this area. You can see here how that acted as resistance in through here and how this one's acting as support. So at some point, one of these has got to give. And when it does, I think that's going to be your kind of next move in gold. Now, if you look at the monthly chart in gold, this is why I'm always looking long on the gold side of things, because to me, this looks very much like a cup and handle, right? Very much like a kind of cup and handle kind of area right here. Save that screenshot, but yeah, a little cup and handle area here. If we ever get through that, we could really, really push on this move. So at some point, maybe, but we have to be patient with kind of what's going on the other side of things. So if we look at, some of these are out of order. So now we're looking at cable, which is pound dollar, and same kind of thing as euro dollar, right? We had this breakdown area. It's a little bit sloppier on the pound where things really got going. We bounced to it, and now it looks like we're kind of selling off here. So on the weekly chart, it's the same thing where, this area is going to be really, really important. If we bounce off this area, then that probably means that bounce is going to fail, and then we can move from there. Lastly, on the currency side, told you guys there was a lot of charts here, is Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar on the monthly chart, you can see it's also drawn in the weekly chart. Big push down, and then we have this kind of tightening wedge going on. I wouldn't be shocked to see a bounce from here just because we are a little bit oversold if we go to the monthly chart. Big push down here on this move. I wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit of a bounce, but maybe we're going to get some continuation here on Aussie dollar. Same thing, we're down many weeks in a row right here on this. So if we get a little bit of a bounce from there, that'll be interesting, but I'll be watching this upper line right here. Now, let us get into equities. And we're going to go into the SPY. See, I hope everyone's strapped in. Grabbed your beers. I wasn't lying. I got charts. So if we look at the monthly chart here on the SPY, again, we got to ignore today's candle because we're one day into the month. But look at the bottoming tail or the hammer candle that occurred here on this monthly chart. This is one of the powers, I think, of zooming out like this, where we have this big, big push down, and then we get this bounce. But when you're living in it and you're watching the market day by day by day, this kind of down move seemed like it was the end of the world. But when you look at our monthly chart, it kind of looks bullish and constructive, where we had this hammer candle and now we're holding up. So even if we, have another few months like this, if you look at it on this higher time frame, makes perfect sense, right? So here in 2021, we had 2 months that kind of just chopped around, and then when we broke out, we got this great continuation. maybe we're going to be looking for something like that, right? That happened right near the high from before the pandemic. So maybe a bounce and a little bit of chop and then a push up is exactly what we're after. Click this. This is the new TradeIdeas web version. Again, you can try this for free. Have free charts, no annoying ads or anything on it, just delayed data. And then when you want real-time data, you sign up, use StatsEdge for 15% off. And then the weekly chart, we had 3 weeks down in a row. We had one inside week and then a big pop-up. Now, the way I'm looking at that is we're kind of stuck, right? So if you use these highs and then you use these highs right here, you can see we're still kind of stuck within this range. So I wouldn't be shocked again to see some more chop and slop. September and October, I think are historically bad months, and then the end of October on to the end of the year are historically good months. So maybe for those bad months, we kind of chop around a bit. But obviously the areas of importance are this low right here and then this high right here. If those two things hold, then you're just going to have some chop. If one of them clears substantially, well, then that might be the resumption of a new trend. If I take a look here at TAN, T-A-N, and then we go into a monthly chart on TAN. I've mentioned this on the weekly chart before, but it's still interesting to me, right? On TAN, we have this support right here. We have a low here, and then we have a low here. So we sell off to that low. If we then bounce from that low, that's super interesting to me. If we get this kind of push higher from this area right here, you know, if this lets go, then you've got to watch way back here. But $50, right, was an important level back in this area for TAN. So maybe, you know, $50 give or take back there is going to be important too. Continuing on to the energy trend, we have URA, where we have on a monthly chart a solid little breakout of this support zone. So we have this area. I keep hitting the space bar and that keeps moving me up. We have this kind of wedge right here where you can see we finally had a monthly breakout of that zone. So that's pretty significant on there. If we continue to push higher, that's what we're interested in, right? That's what we want to see. Same with DBC. With DBC, this is kind of the overall commodities right here. So this is going to include things like wheat and corn and all that stuff that aren't doing very well, where energy is doing very well. And you can see even this is getting going with a lot of those things lagging on that monthly time frame. A little inside month last month, and then we're already continuing here. So on the weekly chart of DBC, starting to get very interesting. We had kind of this first kind of coil up, and then we had this second coil up with this big move this week. So maybe a bull time for commodities. It's definitely something I've got my eye on. Now, one of the things, there's so much here. I don't think I'm going to go through it all. You have to go to StatsEdgeTrading.com, sign up for the email list. I don't want to ramble on forever, but there's a couple things that I wanted to point out. And one is this XHB, not XLB, XHB, which is our home builders and the relative strength we've been seeing in these home builders. If I go to a weekly chart on this guy, what we're doing, if you look at the distance from this high right here, and you see how far away tech was and how far away the SPY was and how far away uranium were, and then we have home builders just bumping up against that high. Very, very strong, you know, relative strength in the home builders for sure. One more. But again, there's more in here. I'm skipping some just because, again, my voice is starting to wear out after a long week of presentations. XLV, we are getting very, very tight here when it comes to, let's do this again. We're working on this for the web version where I can make bigger charts, but we have just this kind of tightening pattern. But if we go to the monthly chart, you can really see this kind of tightening that's going on. It's getting really, really tight in this area right here. So we're looking for a breakout on XLV, which is our healthcare. So healthcare and homies are doing pretty well. JBHT. So this was on the list yesterday. I bought some today. The idea here was simply this anchored VWAP right here. Kind of looks something like this. Okay, we might need to go over to the download it in a second. right here like this, where you can see the lows right here were kind of held that anchored VWAP from the lows after this big pullback. We had a nice breakout today. I like the look of that. PRAX. I also added this one to the list. And PRAX basically was just a nice bull flag right here. This anchored VWAP from the low came in as well, but basically just trading as a bull flag. Broke out today, came in a little bit early, started to pull off after, so I picked some of that. This is a low price bio, so I definitely sized accordingly. URBN. No, Urban's not new. I had that on the list last time. Again, you can go back and see everything that's been on the list. I think I only added one thing to the list today, and that was PCT. And a lot of it is because I spent a lot of time doing these monthly charts. So if you want to see if I kind of add anything on the fly this weekend, when, if I have some time, I'm scanning around over the long weekend, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Michael Nauss CMT and also Threads at Michael Nauss CMT. I will try to post anything new I'm going to add to those things. And then, PCT. So the anchored VWAP from this major swing low is holding right now. It actually held, I'm just looking at the chart over here, it held back here. And you got this massive run from it from like 8 to 12. So holding right here, if we can get a little pop, this one has like a 20% short float. So that is the reason that I'm interested in that. Okay, guys, we did it. That was a lot of charts, a lot of monthly charts, a lot of weekly charts. If I were to sum it all up in kind of a sentence, which again, I do in the email, I just have a one kind of paragraph description. So if you don't want to hear me talk and you just want like a paragraph of what I think of the market and access to all the charts, that's another way to do that. We're in for a little bit more mess, I think. There's nothing that, uranium had a clear breakout, a couple names had a clear breakout, but everything else we're in a mess. We're chopping around because we've run up so far this year to hit these prior highs or near these prior highs, and then we've backed off them pretty substantially. It's kind of that zone from where we hit them to where we backed off them. That is what I'm thinking is going to be important. I don't think we're going to get any clear trends one way or the other for maybe the next month or so. So it's important that you understand as a trader your job in that scenario, which is not to really swing for the fences. Your job is to go, okay, I know this is what we're going to get, so I'm going to be chill. I'm going to wait. I'm going to take my time. For me, it's very much is why you're seeing more pullbacks come back onto the watch list. I'm going to try to time pullbacks, see if I can get a nice bounce in them, take a lot of my profit right away, and then hold them if we do. Now, if we get a resolution higher, that's where I'll be more interested in breakouts and that kind of thing. So that's my thoughts on the market. Everybody have a safe and lovely long weekend.